everyone. How's it going? I hope everyone had a great Easter weekend for those that celebrate Easter. We had this past Easter slash Sunday was also my daughter's 10th birthday party. She actually turns 10 in a week from today. We had our party on Easter for her, and yeah, so it was a great time. Lots of family time, and I can't believe my daughter's about to turn 10 in less than 7 days, which is mind-blowing to me. But yeah, I don't know where the time goes. But yeah, we had a great weekend this past weekend, lots of family and good food and all good stuff. So for today's topic, I want to chat a little bit about, I don't know, just something I was thinking about this morning, and it has to do with what I like to call the fourth macronutrient that most people don't pay any attention to at all. And in fact, as with everything in nutrition, there are people who also say that this is going to destroy you. We'll take it for what it is, but let's talk a little bit about fiber. Fiber is something that time and time again seems to come up as a positive in the research, right? There's lots of correlative data that shows, positive effects with fiber and cancer and heart disease and type 2 diabetes and weight loss and obesity and being overweight, meaning that the more fiber you seem to eat, the better these outcomes of these diseases that are so terrible today seem to be, right? So generally fiber is looked at as a good thing. And I'm not entirely sure that it's the fiber per se that is having a direct impact on some of these things. My guess is that maybe outside of certain types of cancers, maybe. I don't know, this is a complete guess. I'm not a doctor and I have no research off the top of my head that's going to back this up, but outside of maybe some specific cancers, I think the reason why we see positive correlation with fiber intake in certain diseases is that in outcomes like weight loss and obesity and stuff like that, just has to do with the fact that in order to eat enough fiber, you have to be eating a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. And someone who eats a wide variety of fruits and vegetables generally has a low processed food diet. So they're not eating a ton of processed food. And they're likely also implementing other positive health practices like exercising and getting enough sleep and having good community and modulating their stress because they're paying attention to their diet to some degree in order to get enough fiber and eat a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables. So I think it's probably more like a healthy user bias type of thing. So I'm not sure that fiber per se is a magic bullet for many diseases, but it does appear to be a key piece of having or key way of representing what would be a beneficial diet for most people. One thing that is a different way of looking at this, I think might be an interesting experiment for a lot of people to play around with, especially if they're interested in trying to improve their diet or maybe interested in losing weight, is to look at three pieces of your diet and track these three pieces. The first one would be calories, how many calories you're eating, because that's really going to be the overall driver of weight loss. Then protein, and for the many reasons that we've talked about as far as the importance of protein in being healthy, but in terms of weight loss and body composition, we want to eat enough protein to maintain our muscle mass and get the satiating benefits of that come along with eating enough protein. And then fiber intake, eating enough fiber. And then you don't even have to pay attention to carbs and fats. Shocker. So a lot of the diets out there today are advocating for some level of carbohydrate restriction or some level of high fat intake or some level of restriction and some level of carbohydrate intake and carbohydrate intake for performance and all these other things or lack of performance in the gym or all these different things, right? It's always carbs or fats, carbs or fats, carbs or fats. But what if we just forgot about carbs and fats completely and said, well, it's really just about protein and fiber and calories, and we just tracked it that way and just let carbs and fats fall where they will? So the reason why I think this is an interesting experiment is that when you target a specific protein intake, so generally we're going to say most people are going to shoot for around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, or 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram if you're measuring your weight in kilograms. And then you're going to target certain fiber intake for the day. And generally, the recommendation for fiber intake that people want to shoot for is around 25 grams for women and maybe around 35 grams for men. So men typically just around 10 grams more than women. But if you were to like track your food and look at your fiber intake, I'm guessing that most people are going to fall below that. Just if people track their protein intake in the beginning, a lot of people are going to miss the mark on the 1 gram per pound of protein per pound of body weight. They're also going to miss the mark on their fiber intake, right? And that's just purely because people are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And so the reason why I think this is an interesting experiment between tracking protein and fiber, it's encouraging you to actually eat more food. Whereas when we're talking about carbs and fats, we're always trying to restrict some kind of food, right? Either the carbohydrate or the fat content. And we're not necessarily focusing on including more food. And I'm always a fan of trying to get the most food into someone's diet as possible. And the reason why I like it's good to include more protein and include more fiber is those two foods, it's very hard to get them in a processed form. It's easier to get protein in a processed form, like you can get protein in a protein bar, that type of thing. But we all know, we've talked about, the protein density calculation, how many grams of protein you're getting per calorie, and almost all protein bars are pretty poor at that. So we want to avoid those types of things. We want to look for high protein density foods, and those are just generally going to be whole food sources of protein, and we want to focus on those, right? In those, so we want to eat as much of the whole food protein that we possibly can. And then if we also say the same thing about a fiber, we want to get either 25 or 35 grams of fiber. How are you going to do that? You're going to have to eat. Fiber is not part of processed foods, right? Like you don't generally find fiber in highly processed foods. You have to find it in whole food form. And so you're going to end up eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. And that's going to keep you satiated, right? So the fiber satiates you, but the food volume from the amount of fruits and vegetables that you have to eat in order to get that fiber is also going to satiate you. And then you have the protein that's also satiating to you. And then you're setting yourself up to basically eat a whole bunch of food for very little calories and lose a bunch of weight. And basically you're in the sweet spot there of feeling full, losing weight, and not suffering through it. And your mindset is trying to eat more as opposed to trying to eat less. So you're trying to hit this fiber intake. So you're not even paying attention to what the carbohydrate and fat intake looks like. You're just trying to hit this fiber number. You're trying to hit this protein number. And you could also make a very strong argument to me here that you probably don't even need to track calories, but you could track calories as well just to make sure that you're not going crazy. But it's hard to really just blow through calories when you're eating whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and protein. It's just hard to do it. You can make a very strong case for not tracking calories, but I like to just throw that in there just in case there's the odd individual here or there that can really do it. But I would challenge you to try this out, right? It's going to be relatively hard to hit those fiber numbers for most people, especially in the beginning. So inevitably, the question is going to come up, well, where do I get this fiber from? Like, where does it come from? You said fruits or vegetables, but are there ones that are really more fiber dense than others? Sure, like everything, there's ones that are going to be higher in fiber, and there's going to be some that are lower in fiber. So some good sources are going to be raspberries and blackberries are pretty high in fiber. Avocados are going to be high in fiber. If you tolerate legumes, so like beans, chickpeas, lentils, those types of things are going to be high in fiber. They're also relatively going to be higher in carbohydrates, but they have a lot of fiber in them because, for those of you who don't know, fiber is a type of carbohydrate essentially. It's the undigestible part of type of carbohydrate. Brussels sprouts, acorn squash is another good one that's high in fiber. All fruits and vegetables have some amount of fiber in them. It's just that some are going to be higher than others, right? Actually, what I really like to do is just do a giant stir fry of vegetables. So just take a whole bunch of vegetables, throw them in a pan, and just calculate, measure it out, but calculate how much of each vegetable you're throwing in, and then see what the total fiber intake for that entire meal is. I mean, you're probably going to be around, if you really do a lot, you go ham on the fruits and on the vegetables, you'll probably be close to 10 grams in that one meal, in that one stir fry. So that could be another way. I usually end up in around the 40-gram mark of fiber per day myself personally, and I don't really pay attention to the fiber counts in the foods that I'm eating. I just mainly eat fruits and vegetables on every meal in large quantities of them, and so I can hit that number relatively easily for myself. But you have to focus on eating your fruits and vegetables. And then when you focus on eating fruits and vegetables, then you just don't leave room for much else because you're so full from the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. And they're not calorically dense. And you just get, as a result, it's very easy to not eat a lot of calories. So it's this interesting experiment, right? I think it would serve people well to forget about the battle between carbs and fats and instead just say, I'm going to focus on protein and fiber and treat fiber as this fourth macronutrient, and treat it like a protein goal. Like you're going to eat as much of that food that you possibly can until you reach that goal, and just don't even pay attention to how many carbs or fats are coming along with that. And you're going to get there, and it's going to be, I suspect it's going to be a different mindset and a different feeling as far as fullness and satiety that you would normally have if you were following something like a low fat, high carb diet or a low carb, high fat diet. Yeah, low carb, high fat diet. So give that a shot. Let me know. What are your thoughts on fiber? I'll also obviously mention that some people, that amount of fiber is going to destroy them. Some people can't tolerate that amount of fiber. Obviously, this is not going to be for everyone. Some people really need to avoid the fiber or minimize the fiber because of GI distress, which this is the hardest part of nutrition, is like everyone's going to be different. But some people really do thrive on that fiber. I do fine with that amount of fiber, and I know plenty of other people do as well. And like everything, you might have to just stair step your way up to that number that you're targeting, but don't expect to go overnight from 5 grams of fiber a day to 35 grams of fiber a day and not feel completely uncomfortable doing so. You might have to take a couple of weeks or months to get there, but give it a shot, try it out. I think it's a different mindset. I think it's a positive mindset as far as eating is concerned. And I think it's a different way of looking at your food and tracking your calories and your macros and stuff like that. And just something that doesn't get a lot of attention because fiber is not sexy. Let's be honest. It's another way of saying eat a bunch of fruits and vegetables, and that doesn't sell a lot of products. Then people don't pay attention to that. It's not what you're going to see on Instagram. But I'm going to say it because I don't really care about selling anything. I just want to give you some actionable advice. And speaking of actionable advice, the best way to keep track of all the content that I put out that has all this actionable advice into it is to sign up for my newsletter. So you can do that by going to rjbhealth.coach. Click on the newsletter tab at the top, enter your email address, and you'll be signed up for the newsletter, and I will email you all the actionable advice I have on a weekly basis. I also do have one spot open in my one-on-one coaching program, so if you're interested in that, you can go to my website, rjbhealth.coach, click on the schedule discovery call button, fill out the form, and I will email you so we can have a quick Zoom chat about doing some coaching together, see if it would be a good fit together. So with that, I hope everyone has a great week, great weekend.